What if I told you that I've been playing a game that takes the Quacks of Quedlinburg, Quarriors, and the Quest for El Dorado and smashes them all together? That's right, elements of all of these Q-themed games can be found in Cubitos. Cubitos. Anyway, depending on how you feel about those games, you may or may not want to play this one. Although, side note, you should play this game because it's fantastic. I mean, watch the Shut Up and Sit Down video if you don't believe me. But regardless of all that, I bet you have an idea of what this game is. Hey folks, my name is Shay Parker, and when I'm not teaching games directly, I like to take some time to provide a few tips on how you can teach games a little bit better on your own. And today's topic is don't reinvent the wheel. Now, when you're reading most rule books, they're going to teach you every mechanic in the game as if you've never played anything like it before. And that makes sense because as far as the publishers know, you may not have. But that's because they don't know you the way that you probably know your friends. And you can and should use that familiarity to your advantage. Bringing it back to Cubitos, when I teach this game, I'll tell people that it's a racing game with a deck building mechanic, much like El Dorado, but instead of cards, we've got custom dice with unique abilities, just like Quarriors. I'll tell people about the push your luck mechanics and how they're a little bit like Quacks of Quedlinburg, but a little later I'll get to the red lines all over the board and say that they're just like the rat tails in Quacks. Now, your friends may not have played all of these games, but depending on how many times they've been around the block, there's a fair chance that they're familiar with at least one of them, and that's one chunk of the teach that just got a lot easier. See, it's all about connections. The human mind is hardwired to find connections between disparate ideas. And while that sometimes gets us into trouble, it also helps us fit new information into a pre-existing framework. Learning a game can be stressful because it seems like everything's brand new. And so you have to build your understanding of it from the ground up. But by connecting a mechanic in a new game to something that your friends are already familiar with, well, that just takes the pressure off. And when people are more comfortable, they retain information better. I do want to encourage you to do this gently, though. I may say that the custom dice are just like Quarriors, but I'll also make sure my friends know what that means before moving on. Even if I know that they've played this game, I'll still check in and make sure they understand the connection. If not, I'll say, hey, that's fine. What I mean by that is that there are all these custom dice, each of them has unique symbols on them, and those symbols are explained on the matching character cards. But these cards are going to be different from game to game. Occasionally, you'll be teaching players with very little gaming experience, or you'll be teaching a game that's just so different from everything else that it's really hard to find connections. And yes, in those cases, this tip will not be particularly useful, but I think you'll be surprised at just how often you can find common ground. And once you have that, it'll be so much easier to just fill in the gaps with whatever peculiarities this game brings. And that's it for this episode of How to Teach. I want to thank AEG for sending me a copy of Cubitos. I was actually lucky enough to try out this game years ago, back when it was still being playtested, and I have been a fan of it since that day. I also knew that it would make a great example for an episode, so I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope that you pick up a copy of Cubitos. There's an Amazon link in the description, but especially these days, if you can support your local game stores, I recommend it. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!